would say that parenting is not an event. Sometimes people say spend quality time or quantity time. Parenting is a process, and you always have to be there. You have to make time, and you also have to be there all the time, because sometimes our children need somebody to talk to, they need somebody to encourage them, they're having a challenging time. You need to be there. Remember, we are stewards. God made us stewards. And I always say we are bringing up somebody's wife, we are bringing up somebody's husband, we are also bringing us a responsible adult for the nation. So you are bringing up a CEO, you are bringing up a politician, an organizational head. Have all that in mind, and together with your husband, bring the children up so that one day somebody will bless you as having done a very good job. And one day God will tell you, good and faithful servant, you took very good care of my property, what I entrusted in your hands. Bear that in mind so that nobody will curse you one day and say that, look at this job you did, it's not good at all. And pray. You need to pray. Like everything depends on prayer. Rise up at dawn, mommy, and pray for your children. I wake up 2 a.m. I am always laying hands on my children and speaking forth what I want to see happen to them. I do that every time. Sometimes they see, sometimes they don't see. If your husband is not doing it, it's okay, mother, do it. And one day, you will thank God for what you did. God bless us all.
Hello, this is Radiant Parenting. We are coming your way with a topic dubbed Winning Habits for Children. Why this topic? Human beings are creatures of habits. And depending on the kind of habit you have, you could either be successful, or you could either be a success or a failure. And as our children grow in our homes, as we raise them, if we give them the habits that will make them successful in the future, then we are setting them up to have an impactful life. That's why we have put together the topic for this segment of the program, dubbed Winning Habits. And to do justice to this topic, we have a man of God who is my father, my mentor, a teacher of God's word. He is the Bible. He's a lover of the Bible and a teacher of the Bible, and he's an elder of the Church of Pentecost. He fellowships at PIWC Atomic. He's also a business development consultant. He's a father and a husband. Before I introduce our guest to you, we'll go on a quick commercial break, and then I'll introduce our guest to you. Thank you.
So my final words to every parent out there: you are doing so well, you are doing great. God bless you, keep it up. But be reminded that parenting is a ministry. See it as such, and God will grant you all the grace and strength to raise these little ones. Again, our children learn very well by modeling. It is what they see us parents do that they also emulate. And so I entreat every parent out there to live right so that the children we are raising would also live as such. Thank you so much.
Hello, welcome back from the commercial break. As I said earlier, we have a great man of God in the studio. He is a father and a husband. He's an elder of the Church of Pentecost. He fellowships at PIWC Atomic. He is a teacher of God's word. Today, he's going to take us through the topic, winning habits. What kind of habits should our children form that will help them to win the race of life? In our country, we are so concerned about passing exams, and that is so important. Passing BEC, passing WASI, we do all things to pass this exam. But for sure, if the children do not have winning habits, they can pass the WASI, they can pass the BC, but without winning habits, they are not going to make it in the future. That's why we have invited this great man of God to speak to this topic. Please welcome Elder Gifty Agyemang to the studio. Elder Gifty, you are most welcome to Radiant Parenting.
Thank you very much.
Good. So we are ready to hear you.
Okay. Beloved listener, I thank you all for this opportunity to also contribute to the very good work that Radiant Parents are doing to equip parents, help us all raise a very effective family across homes and even onto our nation. Today, just as it has been introduced, we are speaking about winning habits for children. Winning habits for children. I was introduced as a man of God, somebody who loves the Bible, but I want to break this topic down so you may not find so many of Bible quotations and things. I want to bring it to the level that we can all appreciate and associate with. So first and foremost, our objective by dealing with this topic is to help our children acquire habits that will make them successful throughout life. Habits are acquired in the same way we acquire degrees and certificates and all that. And there should always be a certain conscious effort, an intentional plan made towards it. And that's why I think this topic is very important for all parents. Merriam-Webster defined habit in various ways. First and foremost, he said habit is a settled tendency or usual manner of behavior, a settled tendency or a behavior that comes to you usually. You do it without even thinking. Before you realize you have done it. That is habits. Habits is also defined as an acquired mode of behavior that has become nearly or completely involuntary. An acquired mode of behavior that has become nearly or completely involuntary. So when a child settled with a certain habit, it becomes more or less an involuntary action. He or she does it without thinking about it. And such a behavior can stick with him or her for the rest of their life on earth. And that is why it is important that we really direct our children as to what kind of habit they need to develop. It may be those that they need to shine away. Somebody also defined habit as the prevailing disposition of character of a person's thought and feeling. The prevailing disposition. If you look at this man and what he does every day or how he responds to certain issues, you can predisposingly determine that when this thing happens, he will behave this way. So it becomes something automatic. So behaviors are very, very potent aspects of human's life that we need to take seriously. Having tried to explain what a habit is, let me say that a winning habit are consistent behaviors or practices that will help our children towards their achieving their individual success. It will also help them to improve their well-being and also enhance their overall quality of life. Winning habits are habits that are positive. They are habits that enhances the life of the child. They are habits that improve their well-being, and they are habits that enhances the overall quality of their lives. We want to say that much as they are good habits, they are also bad habits. And some people also say that they are neutral habits. Neutral habits are habits that neither will harm you nor do you good. But we want to focus on the good ones that will really help instill this life of success in our children. So I'll discuss maybe 3 or 4 of them. First, I want to touch on habits that create success. Habits that endanger success. One of them is the habit of goal setting. And all these habits I'm discussing are habits we parents need to pick them up and intentionally instill in our children. If we help them to develop this habit, it will really shape their lives for the future. And when they grow up, the Bible says when you teach a child the way they should go, they will never depart from it. So I'm touching on habits for success, or habit that endangers success. And the first one is goal setting. By goal setting, what we're trying to say is that we need to encourage our children to set achievable goals and also work towards them in every area of their life, in their academics, in their spiritual development, in whatever they set their heart to do. Let's let them understand that there's something called setting goals, putting a target ahead of you and working towards it. And when this habit is instilled into the children, they grow and they don't just do things haphazardly. They always have a focal point, a focus, something they are following. Somebody say focus means following one course until success. Something they are following until they achieve it before they move on to something else. So this will help them live a life that is purposeful and that is well focused. Mostly when they are children, we think they are children, so they can go through life doing anything. Maybe when they grow up, they will catch up with the right things. But when we do not help them to develop this habit of setting goals, it may not help them to remain focused even in life as they grow up. The second one under the habit of success is what we call responsibility, living responsibly. If you study our children at home, sometimes they only look up to their parents and maybe their grown-up ones to make things happen in the home. But we need to draw their attention to the fact that they need to take ownership of every behavior or attitude or thing that they put out there. And that even as young as they are, they ought to be responsible children. So helping them to cultivate this habit will also help them in future, so that they do not take life for granted. They don't take anything we commit to their care for granted. They know that they ought to be accountable and responsible for whatever they do. Yeah. So a child is in the home, and if you don't have a maid servant, he should know that after you are eating, you ought to wash your bowls. Mm-hmm. See, when we teach them this kind of responsibility, it will help them to take care of their lives even in future. Number 3 under the habits is I want to discuss perseverance. That in life, success does not come on silver platter. And our children need to understand that in life we ought to persevere. We encourage the children to persist in the face of challenges. We need to let them understand that in life there are failures, there are challenges, but when you fall, you ought to rise. And that falling and rising is part of life. So when they cultivate this habit, even at a younger age, it will help them to develop the right muscles for life in the future. And that anytime they encounter difficulty, even in the academics, sometimes you fail or you get one of the worst grades. But if they understand that we persevere in life, they will rise up and do it again and excel. The last one I want to touch, I have two, they are all important. Let me mention them quickly. The four is self-discipline, which we need to inculcate into every child to develop as a habit. That when nobody is there, when nobody is watching, when mommy and daddies are not there, when teachers are not there, how do you conduct yourself? And that there should be the habit of self-discipline inculcated into them. Then lastly, I want to touch on the success is time management. And I believe if we start with them at their tender age to be mindful on the largest resource God has given to man, which is called time. Mm-hmm. And they know how to manage their time very well. When they grow, they will know how to prioritize their tasks and manage their times effectively. And I believe if we can do this for our children in every home, it will be impact on our nation, where we don't really value time. So this is a habit that when we inculcate into them, it will help them live a successful life. I want to move on to another very important aspect of their lives as children, the life of relationship. Children must understand that life is about relationship. And from KG, the people they meet there, all the way to the university, to the workplace, to the people they will marry, it's all about relationship management. And therefore, they need to develop the habit of having growing good relationship. And relationship will try on about 4 things I want to mention quickly. The children should be helped to develop the habit of having respect for each other. Very important, including respect in the family setting, respect in their school setting. They should respect their fellow mates, respect their teachers, respect their peers. Learn to show respect to any person they meet on the street. And when they develop this, it will help them to grow to become responsible adults in future. And respect is reciprocal. When they build this habit of respecting, people will also respect them, and to help them build their confidence even in this life. The second one is empathy, talking about habits for relationship. We need to encourage our children to understand and appreciate others, people's feelings and their perspective. I believe if we build this so strong in our children and they develop the habit of empathy, when they grow, even if they belong to 2 different parties like NDC and PP, they won't fight. Yeah. Because they will understand themselves. They will understand each other's perspective and never want to quarrel with each other. Another point under the habit for relationship will be communication. We need to teach our children to develop effective communication skills. And we can start with them even at home. Because sometimes most of these are not found in the school curriculum. And parents ought to help our children communicate effectively. They should be active listeners. And they should also have the ability to express themselves clearly. So we should monitor them and try to correct them and try to shape them and help them develop effective communication skills. When they do that and they grow with it, it will even help in their marriages. It is said that most marriages have challenges because of communication. Sometimes the man will talk some way, and that is how he knows how to talk. Nobody corrected him, nobody helped him build this habit we are talking about. And the woman may also respond in the same manner. So we have a responsibility as parents to help our children develop effective communication habits. Then I'll touch on the last one, is teamwork. Helping the children to develop the habit of teamwork, knowing how to work together wherever they find themselves, how to collaborate and work together towards a common goal. And these are very good habits that when they develop, it will even help in the home. There are some homes There are not too many people, but even siblings are fighting because they can work together. And we need to build this habit in them. When we do that, it will help them in building strong relationship in their lives. I also want to touch on a habit for health and wellness. Life is all about the strength and the ability to live on. You may have all the wealth in this world, but if you are not healthy, you may not enjoy life. And as children, we need to inculcate this into them, this habit, that they ought to live healthy and they should take their wellness practices seriously. So first and foremost, we can talk about healthy eating. Help them and teach them and guide them as to how to eat in a healthy manner. That food is sweet, but it's not every food that can help your body or help you to live well. And we should teach them about balanced diets. We should put these thoughts and this habit into their hearts so that when they grow, they will hold it up. I once went to China and I realized that China, I've also been to Japan. I realized that they don't just eat anything. When a Chinese is eating, he will tell you what this is bringing to his body, what that one is bringing to his body. For us, I don't know, maybe for lack of resources, we just eat. But we cannot pass on our predicament to our children. We should teach them how to eat in a healthy manner so that it will help them avoid some of these diseases that are very common in our day. We can talk about regular exercise. Exercising is a virtue. It's not a punishment. And when you teach children the importance of regular physical activity for the overall health and well-being, it will help them build that habit so that when they grow, they will continue. Then we can talk about hygiene. It is known that during the COVID, because of hygiene practices, a lot of things, a lot of diseases that were very common came down. When we came out of COVID, that we are not washing our hands and doing all that, we are told cholera is all over the place. So we teach our children to observe hygiene practices, including almighty washing of hands regularly, and to help them to stay healthy. We can also help them develop the habit of having safety mindset. They always think about safety. It's very important. When we educate them that way, basic rules about safety, such as wearing seat belts. In our world, sometimes you are driving, a man is driving, and the little child is standing in the front seat. He's standing, not sitting. As young as the children are, if you teach them that wearing seat belts, for example, will save your life. When they grow, they will not depart from this. But these few points will help our children also develop the habit of health and wellness, which will help them live long and live to accomplish their purposes. I also want to touch on the habit of personal growth. Personal growth is more or less a mindset that ought to be developed. Sometimes we just go through the motions without really measuring and having a thought about, I want to develop myself up to this, or on this tangent, or in this area. And I believe if we help our children cultivate this habit, that there is a need to personally develop yourself. And that school is not just about collecting certificates, but it is aimed at helping you to develop the potential that is inside you. When we focus their mind on it and they develop those habits, it will really help them. Number one, we ought to encourage our children to be curious, ask the necessary questions, even the unnecessary ones, explore and learn new things. We should not let them shy away from new things. As much as it will not harm them, we should set some boundaries and allow them to explore. For in so doing, it will help open their minds, help them think outside the box, and make them great people in future. In the same vein, regarding personal growth, we can talk about developing the habit of creativity. We provide opportunities for our children to express themselves creatively. If they lean towards the art, music, and other things, we should let them flow. Anything they do that expresses creativity, we should encourage them to develop such habits and not stop them. We should also help our children to develop the habit of self-reflection, the ability to sit back and reflect. Sometimes we have so much power in our brain, but we don't use it that often. But if we don't guide our children, they will grow and become like us. They should have that ability to sit back and reflect, go into their thoughts and examine their life, examine things around them, and see whether they are going wrong or right. That is also another habit that will help them to develop themselves. Then I can talk about gratitude, having the attitude of gratitude. Most often, children just they beat themselves up. They see their flaws, only their flaws. And even when they do well, because parents don't say it, they also don't see that they are doing well. So we should encourage our children to practice gratitude and having appreciation of the good things that God has done for them and the good things that they have in their life. Some are brainy. They can do things that parents even could not do. And we should encourage them to appreciate all these good things that the Lord has put in them. It will help them to know who they are and what they carry and what they can do. And lastly, under personal growth, I'll touch on self-care. We ought to teach our children to take good care of their physical, emotional, and their mental well-being. Their physical, emotional, and their mental well-being. We should let them understand that a human being is made up of certain compartments, and each of the compartments is very important for personal development and growth. And therefore, they ought to take care not only of the physical, but even of their emotions, of their mental well-being, and all. And I believe when we do this, we will instill these winning habits in the children, and we will be helping them to develop a strong foundation for success, for stronger and better relationship, for personal growth, and for well-being. So how do you form good habits? How do you form these winning habits? It takes a long time to develop a habit, especially the good ones. The bad ones, some of them, we inherited them, so they just trigger and you are on it. But to develop a good habit or a winning habit, we ought to set clear goals, defining what the habit is. So if you want your child to develop the habit of maybe reading, you ought to clearly set the goal and let him understand why you want him to develop the habit of reading. What the kind of advantages that reading will bring to him or her. So with that clarity, the goal is clarified to him, and he has a mental focus as to the kind of habit he's developing. Number two, you have to begin with a very manageable plan. You have to always start small. So if it is reading you want to develop in him, maybe reading 30 minutes a day will be okay. So you start with a very manageable version of the habit. You should not say, read 4 chapters a day. When you know that he struggles to read, let's start small and he will pick it up. Number 3, you need to create the politician's enabling environment. So if it is reading, you want him to read. And he does not have maybe a place of his own in the house. Then around the time that he's reading, the TV must go off for everybody in the house. So you create the enabling environment to eliminate all obstacles and also help support him to embark on the habit. Then number 4, we ought to track his or her progress. Monitor the progress and know where he's failing and how you can support him. Then number 5, you have to insist on consistency, because the key to habit formation is doing the thing over and over and over again. So you have to help him or her to be consistent in forming that habit. If it is a daily routine, it ought to be done daily. If it is a weekly, let's ensure that it is done weekly. And as we do these 5 things, gradually the habit will be formed, and the time will come that you will not need your help to do it, because it becomes like an involuntary action. It becomes part of him or her, and they can do it any day, anytime. Finally, let me say how to break bad habits. In case there are certain habits that will hinder the effectiveness of the child. If there are certain habits that will not even help him or her develop these effective habits. Number 1, you need to identify the trigger. Triggers are the cues that makes them zoom into those habits. So I mentioned the issue of television sets. If the television set becomes the cue, once he sees the TV, he won't go and do his homework. Then you make sure that all these cues are dealt with. You put them off his way so that he can focus on the habits he's developing. Number 2, if you want to also deal with bad habits, you find alternative good habits to replace them. So while you are stopping him from watching TV, find an alternative that will also gradually interest him, that he can build confidence in. It's very important. Then number 3, gradually reduce the frequency or the intensity of the bad habits. There are certain bad habits you can't easily kill it, but make a conscious effort to reduce its frequency. Then number 4, you can seek support. In case you are not winning, you can seek support from therapy or whatever. Then finally, number 5, even as he stops this every small step that he takes in stopping the bad habit, you find a nice way to reward him or her. Speak nicely to him or her, encourage him, pat his back, or buy some yogurt for him or her, just to encourage him to move away from this bad habit. I believe when we do all that, inculcate the good ones and help them stop the bad ones, we will help our children to develop winning habits, and this will help them in the long way to build strong foundation for success in life. On this note, I say thank you to all.
Wow, this is really enlightening. Our children, according to our dear father, our children have to be taught the habit of responsibility, the habit of goal setting, the habit of self-discipline. Now he went ahead to categorize the areas that they have to develop certain habits in. One is relationship, respect for people. If they respect others, they'll be respected. Respect for people they see around. Then he went on to talk about communication, then forming habits in the area of health, eating well. Sometimes our children overeat and they eat the wrong kind of stuff because of what they also see us eating, what we feed them with. They don't exercise. Now we have children who are obese, which didn't used to be the case. But if our children have winning habits in the area of health, then they'll be able to overcome some of those health issues. Then he also went on to talk to us about having winning habits in the area of personal growth. These are very rich and exciting. And also he went on to tell us how to form winning habits and how to break bad habits. This is a very comprehensive presentation. But I have some few questions. So, Brother PJ, so as our children are growing up, sometimes I wonder, how come we are not able to instill this habit in them?
Okay, just as I said, it ought to be very intentional. You know, most often than not, we live our lives as if whatever will happen, will happen. And sometimes we even think, especially those who are Christian, they think because they are in Christian environment, everything will fall out fine. But we ought to be intentional and help these our children on daily basis, on weekly basis, to develop these habits, especially those habits that you don't see in them, so that they will pick them up and grow with it.
Okay.
So it's an intentional thing, something we have to deliberately take it on board and do it.
Okay. So we have to be very observant to know that these habits, I'm not seeing them in my children.
Yes.
Then you pick it up as a project and work on them one by one. But what you have mentioned so far, if we are able to imbibe or instill this kind of disciplines in our children, if they form those habits, then their future will really be very prosperous. But in the area of eating, we the matters, sometimes we are we are the culprits. Because we sell the food. But sometimes the things that the food you think will be very healthy for your child, you serve it and they don't eat, they don't want it. I remember when one of my daughters was younger, I served a bunebu, and she was like, "It is the devil's soup."
You mean the color?
You mean the color puts her, or meanwhile it's healthy. So in such instances, how do we instill winning habits into them?
Just as I mentioned, habits don't just happen in a day. It takes a lot of time. So if we have the patience and we keep on
consistent,
maybe you just prepare the brabo. He doesn't know what went into the brabo.
The look puts her off.
So one day if you sit him or her down and try to explain to him or her the ingredients and what is inside the ingredients. I was telling you about the Chinese, they will tell you when you eat this, you get this. So with that understanding, even if it's not tasty, they will eat it. So I believe we also ought to educate our children about what comes from the kitchen. It's something I don't think we do.
We don't.
So that we can carry on them on board. Yesterday, somebody was eating and told me there were too many fish in the stew. And doesn't like fish. And I was asking her, do you know what is in fish? And so I think we ought to also educate them on some of these things so that it will help them.
Good. Then I want you to comment briefly on the habit of responsibility. Because in our time and age, parents are not there, and sometimes they get others to step in and they do almost everything for the children. So children grow up without having that sense of responsibility. They grow up rather having that sense of entitlement. What can we do to improve that?
I think that is why you brought this topic. We ought to start from somewhere. And maybe we ought to start quickly. Because this thing runs through every family. I have children, and sometimes I look at them and I start, they lack that habit of responsibility. The way they even take care of their own things.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. So we need to teach. And I also realize, I quite remember our firstborn. Sometimes when he does something at all, he said, "But you haven't taught me."
Is that but you haven't thought?
So I think we also sometimes take things for granted
It's true.
that they should know. So let's keep on teaching them, correcting them, and helping them to be responsible.
To be responsible. I said the last, but let me say the last. The habit of gratitude that we touched on. You know, we've gotten to a point where, especially the younger generations, they don't have that sense of gratitude. Like today, a father dropped the son at school. I had to tell him, say thank you to daddy. He's the father, that's his responsibility. Fine, but you still have to show appreciation. How do we address that? They don't care. They don't care at all.
And it's our fault.
It's our
It's our fault. Because I realize that our generation, even though our parents were not too very enlightened, some of these things they inculcate. Yes, they taught us, and we do it. But we found out that those who came after us, maybe they did not get it. So if you do not teach the children, it's all boiled down to driving it. Don't be angry with them, but keep on. Anytime they make that mistake, bring it up. Keep bringing it up. And I believe it will stick. But it's something we need to do, else we will lose them.
Yeah, we are in the area of gratitude, responsibility. What you said is so true. It happens almost everyone. Their own things, their books, they can't find them. You know, so you wonder. So it means parents, we have a lot of work to do.
Certainly.
And this is a wake-up call to all of us. Daddy has given us a detailed list. And if you are able to go through all this, maybe you may not be able to do all, but make the effort. It's doable. Others have done it. Why not you and I? So let's make the effort. I hope you are learning so much from this segment of the program, Winning Habits for Children. As our daddy said, this is not just something that will happen or just out of the blue appear. It's something that as a parent, you have to intentionally, deliberately, purposefully inculcate into your children. Before we wrap up this program, we'll go on a quick commercial break and then we'll bring this session to a close. Thank you for staying tuned to Radiant Parenting.
Between Friday and Monday.
The baby came.
Monday morning, yes.
The baby came.
The baby came.
Wow. And you were a proud father.
It was an interesting incident. You know, out of the many things we have read, so I said, "Oh, I'm going to stand by my wife when when she's giving birth, so that I can give her support." You know. And then I told the doctor, I said, "Okay, come in. Come and see me." When I saw my wife going through pain and I
couldn't help her.
I couldn't. I was the one almost collapsing. Then they said, "Hold him, hold him, hold him."
Oh, is that the truth?
Look, I'm telling you.
You were collapsing.
Yes. So it made me. Since then, when I see a pregnant woman or a woman who has gone through delivery come back, enough respect I give glory to God for, because even me standing on the side, I realized that what we watch in the films is way different from what the actual experience is. I couldn't hold it.
Welcome back from the commercial break. Elder PJ, please, you have shared a lot with us. I want to say thank you. And I know you because I know you're a man of discipline. When you were even coming, I was praying that I would not miss that time, but we still missed it. So what can you tell us, we parents of today, younger parents, What can you tell us? We are willing, but sometimes it's not easy. What can you tell us? Your last word.
Thank you very much for the question. I believe parenting is a huge responsibility that God has laid upon us. And in our day and age, parenting is a Herculean task because of the kind of life we are involved in. Our 8 to 5 jobs and all that we need to do to sustain the family sometimes keep us off the other vital responsibility that we ought to offer to our families. But we thank God that we have institutions like yours, which most often do not bring our attention back to what we ought to do as parents. And I'm praying that what we have learned today, we all have learned, including myself. If we go back to it, listen and keep listening, and put down some points and take the steps gradually but steadily, one day we'll get there. The issue is we don't have to throw our hands in the air and say that it's difficult, we can't do it. We ought to start from somewhere. And most importantly, let's bring the children to the place of understanding. It's not a matter of just writing the rules on the wall and tell them to obey. Bring them to the place where they will understand why, if they develop or when they develop this habit, it will really help them. Give them examples. You can use your own life as an example onto them. I believe if you do that and not stop but consistently keep on doing that, we will be able to build a healthy generation who have good habits. And that will help develop our communities and even our nations. I mean, we are losing it. It is said that even in Ghana, when you look at the census, population census, about 71% are Christians, meaning they practice the Bible at home, but we are losing it. So it tells all of us that we need to go back to the drawing board and start from somewhere. And I believe God will help us. I also want to thank you for the opportunity to add my little voice to the great work that you are doing. Thank you.
We are honored to have you. Thank you so much. We have learned so much from you, and we'll invite you again to come and share with us. So, cherished parents, the ball is in your court. The message has gone out about how we can raise children with winning habits. Habits, should I call it 360 habits? Habits that encompasses all the areas of their lives so that they will live their lives to fulfill God's plan and purposes for their lives. They will not miss out on God's agenda for their lives. They will live their lives to the fullest. They will live and enjoy their lives. It's better for us to help them to endure today than to allow them to cry tomorrow. They can cry today. For how long can they cry if we instill those habits? It's better we do it today than allowing them to grow into the future and have regrets. It's better late than never. It's never too late, as our daddy told us, to start. And the time to start now, the best time to start is to start now. Thank you for joining us on Radiant Parenting. We'll come your way again with another great edition of our program. Thank you so much. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Very great. Thanks. And you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, I could see you were one of the participants of the parenting training that took place this afternoon. Please, what have you learned in the training and what can you share with us?
All right. I'm grateful for this training because today I learned about the skills in parenting. And then I got to know who a parent is and his role in child upbringing. I also learned that there are various stages in child outbringing. So per their ages, there are different styles a parent has to know and then train the children. I also learned that a parent's role basically is to train and shepherd a child from infancy to adulthood. Per the ages of the children, there are things that parents are supposed to do and there are things that they are not supposed to do. Above all, love is a key point. That's the basic thing in all skills that a parent should have. So today I learned a lot and I know what a parent is supposed to do at every stage in a children's life.
Okay, so with this, how do you expect this to be of benefits to the farmers?
We come across various cases on our field, and today I'm proud to say that I can attribute a lot of these cases to bad parental skills. So from henceforth, I'm going to train my farmers on good parenting skills, and I hope that these cases we are having will be remedied with this solution.
Okay, so is it a course or is it a project you think that should be implemented in order to turn cocoa sourcing communities?
Of course, specifically from this area, because of the illegal mining, parents have lost their children to this activity and they cannot hold their children back because of the parenting styles they've been using over these years. So knowing this, I'm going to teach a parent his roles, especially what to do with their children when they are growing up. And I think with this, every child who will have this care and love from parents will listen to their parents and will not go into galamsey. And this will help with the kids in my district very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Letitia. And we wish you all the very best. And we hope that this is going to be implemented in all your cocoa sourcing communities and to be a blessing unto the farmers. We are grateful for your time. Thank you.
You are welcome.